Following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café.
Welcome to this episode of Pit Life BBQ. Gather around the pit with your hosts, Johnnie Mags and Messy Mike. Let's talk barbecue.
What's up, everybody? Coming to you live from the Studio 21 Podcast Café in beautiful Salem, New Hampshire. It's the Pit Life BBQ podcast, where we talk everything barbecue and a lot of other topics that you'd normally talk around the pit. As always, I'm joined by Messy Mike. Bueller?
No Messy.
Bueller? Anybody? Bueller?
This is more of a clean show today, right?
Yeah. No, Mike has had an appointment this afternoon that he could not miss. So he might be here running a little late, or he might not. But that's all right. He's got a couple things in the works, that boy.
Kind of means more for us, doesn't it?
More for us. Look, we got snacks today. We got snacks, we got wine, we got cigars, we got key lime pie. Jesus. Woo! We're doing all right. So today, this was a long time in the making, Ed.
Yep.
This idea came about back in September. And today we're talking dry aging, and who better to talk dry aged steaks than, as far as I'm concerned, the dry aged guru, our friend from the Florida Dominicana Cigars, Mr. Jonathan Carney. Well, welcome to the show, brother.
It's great to finally make this happen.
You are one busy man.
Yeah, on top of my priorities as the vice president of sales for La Florida Dominicana Premium Cigars out of the Dominican Republic, your schedule is wild as well, and to try to cross everybody's schedules together. When we talked about this originally in September, it's been challenging. So we finally pulled it off, and it worked out well. Weather is nice. I'm going to tell you, I might have avoided it because I hibernate during the winter months. So when I didn't answer an email or we were playing tag back and forth, I might have just been doing it because of the weather.
Oh, that's fine. I can't blame you. You're in, where are you at now, Miami?
So I'm out of Miami. That's where our company's based out of in Coral Gables, which is South Miami, where the University of Miami's at. And I'm from Maine.
Yes.
So what's going to end up happening at the end of this podcast, since I'm drinking wine, my New England accent's going to come back a little bit. And you have one. So that'll be back. But I'm out of Miami, but I'm from Maine originally. And I spend a lot of this summer back up in Maine. I'm fortunate that my family has kept my family home up in that area. And it was a house that was kind of built to harbor two crazy children, myself and my sister, along with my mother and father. So we have kind of, my dad calls it the resort. Okay. So what I do is I retire back. I'm a snowbird. So during the winter months, I'm down in Miami. In the summer, I come back up to Maine. So I become a Mainer from May to about September every year. So Miami's great. But what we're going to be talking about today is can be done anywhere, but it's better served and it's more enjoyable at Maine because I do it outside and it's more of a barbecue setting, and I think for me nothing screams the pit, screams the barbecue, screams steak, screams fire like cooking outside in the middle of the woods.
Oh, absolutely. Can't disagree there. That's for sure. Jonathan, have you met Mr. Jonathan?
I'm not aware who this is. Are we on this is the United Podcast Network?
Yes, it is.
That's the Cigar Authorities on there, correct? Or
this is
they
correct.
Still there?
Yes.
Okay. I may have met Jonathan before.
There it is. I was waiting for that. So we're finally talking dry age, and you have put in front of me two things of absolute beauty. If I'm not mistaken, New York strip?
So we got two 50-day dry age prime New York strips bone in.
Oh.
Both of them are 17 ounces. We're going to jump into those in a bit, but how our relationship started here was through cigars.
Yeah.
So I started with the company I'm working for about 8 years ago. I've been the vice president of sales for 6. Actually, my 8-year anniversary is this week.
Oh, nice! Congratulations.
The first 8 years ago to this day, practically, I was actually doing the Cigar Authority podcast. So this is kind of where I started with cigars, and it's fun to kind of bring it full circle. Steak is a passion of mine, specifically dry-aged steak. And how you and I connected up was through an anniversary event we were at, with cigars, and you followed me on social media, where you found where one of my other passions is red meat. I grew up in the restaurant business,
Okay.
so it's always kind of been in my blood. But the last, I'd say, 6 years, I've really taken a passion onto not just dry aged beef, but the art of actually cooking it the correct way.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of opinions on that, which we'll probably get into. But that's how you and I connected up, which was really interesting. And it's fun because when I go around and do my actual job, the number of people that I connect up with on steak, wine, is almost as big as my cigar presence. So it's kind of become my mantra. Coincidentally, not a bad thing. I was in the hospital a week and a half ago for something that was not crazy. I'm fine. My health is perfect. I'm a stallion.
Perfect.
American stallion, everything's good. But coincidentally, in the cigar business, I did take a cholesterol test. So the cigar world is waiting to see my cholesterol test. If it comes back perfect, I will be publishing it on social media. But until then, I'm going to keep eating it the way that I am. But I'm assuming it's going to come back fine because I haven't heard anything yet. But it's been fun to watch something I'm passionate about. Be something that other people are passionate about, and which come full circle sitting here doing my first non-cigar related type podcast. So this is something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, and they do kind of the words all blend together.
They definitely do for me. I don't know if they do for
absolutely.
anyone else.
I'll be sitting there and I'll be having the pits and the grills fired up and the thing, and I got a cold beer in one hand, I got the fire and everything in front of me, and I got a cigar in the other, and it just rolls in all together.
That's my summer. My summer is I have an outdoor kitchen area. It sounds cooler than what it is, but I have a smoker, a big grill, I have a charcoal grill. I got seating for about 12 people. And what I do is my group of friends. So fortunately, I have my group of friends from growing up are still my closest friends. They're all like family to me. And it's my back deck is kind of like a revolving group of who's showing up based off of what I'm cooking. And they always know they come back and we sit and have cigars and smoke. We don't drink as much as we used to. We still drink quite a bit. But we sit back, grill, smoke. This weekend I'm doing a smoked pork butt. Boston butt for my dad this weekend for Father's Day, and we'll throw some steak in there too. I got the menu all planned for the weekend, but that's what I do on the weekends. I sit down and I sit out back, smoke cigars, have drinks, have a bottle of wine, beer, cocktails, and smoke and fire it up.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that, that's for sure. So the dry aging is a very interesting process, and it is an aging process of basically preparing the beef by breaking down the connective tissues. They're hung or placed in racks for up to several weeks or more in some cases. They can be hung as a primal, which is the large section of the cow, or subprimal, as in the cuts of New York strip, sirloins, ribeyes, and such. And it's close to, if I'm not mistaken, it's close to a almost freezing temperature.
So it's definitely a science. It's truly science, and you're really, you said you broke down. You're breaking down connective tissues, and what you're doing is you're essentially drawing the moisture through the protein portion of it, and it's breaking down the fat. And what it does, it tenderizes it in the process too. And really, what it does is intensifies the meat flavor. So the longer you age it, and the longer you dry age it, the more intense that flavor is going to be. The flavor was always in there. It's a matter of releasing it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of schools of thoughts on how to do it. That you can do it professionally. You have to have X, Y, and Z in line. There's a lot of things that are important. Temperature's important. Moisture control is wildly important, because essentially what you're doing is you're fermenting it to an extent. It's like a controlled rot.
Yeah.
Same thing when you're fermenting anything. Cigars, wine that we're drinking today, it's a controlled rot. If you let it get out of control, it will completely break down to a certain amount. So I always compare it, like when I talk with cigars and fermenting tobacco, it's like a compost pile. Like if you let it get out of control, it will break down, and if you don't have it in the right environment, it will go bad. I actually do a little bit of dry aging on my own, and it's the reason I'm able to do that is because I have nothing in my refrigerator in Miami. I travel about 300 days a year, so the steaks, where we got the steaks from today is actually Pat LaFrida. Pat LaFrida, it's out of New Jersey. It's in Manhattan area, New York City, and he does a ton of podcasts, and he's kind of a rock star of dry aged beef, and I think they do the best job. And the consistency and quality is excellent. They supply a lot of the higher end steakhouses in New York City. There's this one called Beatrice Inn that does some real exotic dry aged stuff. And they're one of the suppliers for Peter Luger's as well.
Okay.
But he's talked quite a bit about how it's you've got to have a controlled environment, and it's really hard to do it at home. Now, I don't think it's impossible to do at home, but you have to have a refrigerator that one can handle it, that can cycle out the moisture, because you don't want it too moist, you don't want it too dry, you don't want it too warm, you don't want it too cold. You really can't have anything else in the refrigerator, which makes my refrigerator perfect for it because I have nothing in it. And I also live in a humid environment, so my refrigerator is constantly running.
Now, one of our listeners, Mike C, asked, what's is there a perfect humidity for the steaks during the process?
So if you're looking for an actual percentage, so you want it dry because it's dry aging. So I'll compare everything to cigars because that's what I do professionally. Cigars are perfectly stored at 70 degrees, 70% humidity. I would say the same thing for dry aging and the way that I do it. If I'm storing cigars, I make sure my temperature is around 70 degrees. I make sure the humidity is around 70. If you want it a little drier, I tend to say that the temperature and humidity should be about the same when you're aging and fermenting tobacco or cigars. So if you're at 70 degrees, it should be around 70%. If you're at 65, it should be around 65. That way you're not having a lot of bacteria growth. You're not breaking things down. One thing you do get bacteria growth when you dry age. There's like this crust on the outside that you do have to cut off. That's not generally safe to eat unless you're going to render it down at a really hot temperature. So for me, what I focus on, so anywhere for me between 35 to 40 degrees is good. 40 degrees is going to be a little bit too warm. It's going to be pushing the envelope a little bit. But I would say temperature and humidity should be right around the same. So if you're at 35 degrees, you should be around 35% humidity. And you can, again, I'm telling you can do this at home. You don't need some crazy dry aging thing, but you do need something that's dedicated just to that.
Just for that.
If you're going to use your fridge to dry age meat, that's what you use it for. And you better monitor it and make sure that all of those things are lined up. Like if I were to do this in Maine, where it's a little drier environment, my refrigerator is probably not going to be filtering out the humidity the way that it should be. It's probably not going to be running as much. My refrigerator in Miami never stops running. It's always working the humidity out. So you just got to be in real control of it and really monitor it because it can get dangerous. If it's in a zone where it's spoiled and you're eating something that's spoiled, it's not good. You want to ferment, you don't want to rot.
So I've got a question.
Ed, there's no questions on this show.
No, you're taking questions. You just took a listener question.
I did. Oh, gosh.
So let's say I start with 1 pound of beef. What's the yield after dry aging?
So it all depends on the length of dry aging. The most traditional is about 28 to 30 days. Mm-hmm. Really, if you do anything shorter than that, you're not going to get you're not going to break down a lot of the connective tissue. You're not going to get a lot of the flavor and moisture pulled through the meat. It's not going to be as tender. So really, if you're not going to dry age it for at least 28 days to 30 days, you're really not going to get a benefit of it. The exact science on it. The one thing I'm not a meat scientist, but I would venture to guess you'd probably at 30 days you'd lose about 15 to 20% of the actual mass on it.
Then you're cutting away the
then you go 50 days. I prefer over 40, 45 or above. 50 is probably my favorite. I love the exotic stuff. I've had 120 day before, which was next level. It gets real funky because I said as older it gets, the more intense the flavor is, and people are like, "Oh, it's too funky for me." Well, that's the meat flavor that's in there. You're not eating the outside. You're not eating mold. You're not eating the outside crust. You're eating the meat flavor. So it's the older it goes, the less yield you have. At about 50 to 70 days, you're probably losing about 30, 35%. And then you can go on forever. I mean, there's places that sell. I mean, it's very expensive. You got to think the labor and time. Time's money.
And when you're thinking about it, you're still paying by the pound, but you started with a lot more. So you're paying for the original poundage to start.
Mm-hmm. So the older it gets, the less you're going to have when it ends. The same thing in anything. Fermenting grapes, fermenting tobacco, yield is huge. and you're going to pay for things that are older. And does it make it better? I think so.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all a personal taste.
Well,
good
we'll
question,
be
Ed.
the judge of that.
Yeah, you can ask more questions. You can ask any questions you want.
All
That
right,
was
thank
great.
you. That was great.
Ed did supply our dessert tonight.
I know.
Homemade key lime
Key
pie.
lime pie.
I'm in heaven.
Yeah.
Oh, this is gonna.
It's a feast.
Oh, this is fantastic. Absolutely. And as you were saying, the crust on the outside, or you don't want to call it the rot, but it is a fungus, a certain fungal species, and it actually the way I looked it up, it actually helps in the tenderizing process and increasing the flavor.
It does. There's some dry aging techniques that use like a cheesecloth, or they'll put like a cloth over it, which helps absorb, and they rotate the cloth out every few days. It's really, I mean, as much as you want to do it. Once it starts creating this outside crust, it's locking things in. Nothing's going to get out from there. It's just building up on the inside. So that's really, for me, where all the flavor comes from. So like the older the older I can eat, the more intensity of flavor is going to be there. And it's, you're not, again, people that aren't familiar with dry age, or they've had it and they think, oh, it's a little too funky for me. The funk's not from funk's from the fresh meat that's left over after you've cut that crust off, and it is a crust. That's why I call it a crust. Like, forget the names of it. It gets not a bad rap, because dry aging beef is huge right now.
Oh, it's
Massive. It's the biggest thing going on in red meat in the planet. It's crazy, and calling it a crust makes it more acceptable, I think, for other people. Because like, oh, I'm cutting this mold off, or I'm cutting this fungus off. That's where the flavor is coming from. So it's like, oh, it's too funky for me because it's just aged too long, or it's the funk is not coming from the fermenting part. The funk that you're getting is the actual flavor that's in that meat that's just being being matured. Your ashtray's awesome, by the way.
yeah, my little Weber kettle. eBay special right there.
I could have cooked these things on there.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in about a minute or so.
I'm going to open up another bottle of wine.
Attention barbecue fans. If you're hankering for some meat when you're on the go, I'd like you to try Two Guys Beef Jerky. It's smokehouse cilantro beef jerky with fresh cilantro and a classic blend of spices and flavors. This smokehouse cilantro jerky will quickly become one of your favorites. One bite of this amazing jerky and you'll be hooked. A 3-ounce bag sells for $8 and will sell you 3 bags for just $19.98. That's a 20% savings, but that's not all. For our Pit Life BBQ listeners out there, we've got a special just for you. We'll throw in a bag of our bacon jerky free. This is fiery, sriracha-style bacon jerky, and it's addictive, and it's absolutely free. 3 bags of beef jerky and a bag of bacon jerky for just $19.98. That's a $12 savings right there, and that's still not all. Order now and put BBQ as your coupon code, and we'll even pick up the shipping. Go to twoguys.com/jerky. That's the number 2guys.com/jerky. Put 3 beef jerkies in your cart and put the coupon code BBQ, and we'll automatically include a free bacon jerky and cover the shipping costs. 2guys.com/jerky. That's the number 2guys.com/jerky. 3 bags of the best beef jerky you ever tasted. It's 1 bag of the addictive bacon jerky and free shipping on the whole order. Order today because this offer expires soon. 2guys.com/jerky.
And we are back. And we do have a couple quick other questions here. Do you use a small fan for circulation, or what's your airflow? And do you recommend a hygrometer?
Both, yes. Yes is the answer to both of those things. I'll elaborate on it, but yes, you definitely want the same thing as I'm cigars. So when you have a humidor, you want to know what the temperature is. You also want to know what the humidity is. So I would say yes on both of those. In terms of controlling humidity, the fan helps circulate the air. Circulation is huge. So we're not just talking. When I was talking about my fridge in Miami, people say, actually, my boss, Lito, dry ages at his house, too.
Oh,
he and I started at the same time, like 3 years ago in June, because we're like, we got to be able to do this at our house, right? And he goes, yeah. So like 2 weeks go by, and he's like, hey, Carney, he goes, I started dry aging. I'm like, I did, too. I'm like, as soon as we got back, I started doing it. And because we both had a separate refrigerator, So the fan's not just taking the moisture out; it's making sure the air is moving around. You can't have it in a stale environment. So they make, if you wanted to turn something into a dry aging cabinet, a small mini fridge, they make these little USB type air fans that you can get that control the airflow. You can monitor the humidity with a hygrometer, and obviously watch the temperature. I got a really good friend of mine, Adam, from South Florida, that does this as well, and he was the one that put me on a little USB fan. Instead of getting like a little $50 or $100 USB fan and humidity device, I just decided not to put anything else in my refrigerator ever again and just use it for dry aging, which was a lot easier for me. But yeah, both yes and yes. Definitely want a fan. Definitely want a hygrometer. And this is not a set it and forget it type thing. You really got to monitor it. It's got to be a controlled environment. Once you have the controlled environment and you know that it's going to be consistent, then you can comfortably age it forever. For me, my problem is I go home and like I want to pull it out and eat it.
Yeah.
So it's very hard for me to elaborate on what Ed Sullivan. Time is money. For me, time is hunger. So
nice. All right, we need to get a close up on these.
Yeah, we gotta get into these things too. I mean, this is only 2-person show today.
I've been pretty impressed that they've been sitting here for this long so far.
So while you're getting a shot here, I'm very passionate, obviously, about dry aged beef. However, I am more passionate about the actual cooking technique. There's several different ways that I did it. The ones we have today, I did in a cast iron pan just because of the venue that we're at. I really love cast iron. I'm very simple with it. I use olive oil and salt. If you see rosemary and garlic there, that's just for presentation.
How about
that didn't have anything to do with it. I like simple. I got asked earlier by Mr. Jonathan, who was watching us, watching me cook. He said,
and we got the key lime
he goes,
pie.
are you going to use pepper?
Well, let me get the key lime.
Oh, here we go.
You can't forget the key lime pie here, Ed.
Oh,
You worked
nice.
hard on that bad boy.
That is beautiful. So I don't use pepper because I'm using really high heat. Pepper burns. Salt really doesn't. To burn salt, you would have to create sun like heat like the sun. So I don't use pepper because it burns. I also don't use garlic because garlic has a lower burning point as well. And I also prefer to use grapeseed oil. However, if you keep a close eye on it, you can use olive oil and monitor where it's smoking because I prefer the flavor of olive oil over grapeseed.
So after you get a sear on it, do you finish it in the oven or this is all?
I can't tell my technique.
No?
So sous vide's big, immersion, water immersion. So a lot of people use these water immersions, put them in the bags, it puts it to the perfect temperature, and then they call it reverse searing, where they'll either hit it with fire on the pit, they'll either hit it with a cast iron or whatever they do. I prefer to not do that. The way I cook is called tempered cooking. So these steaks we have today, the total time they were taking heat was 10 minutes. It took an hour to cook. So there's 50 minutes of resting in between 3 different times. Now, as I said, I can tell you the process, but I won't tell you exactly what I do because I'm very proud of my technique. I think it's excellent. Everyone has the way they like things.
He does. Sous vide, so he came running.
He did. He's a little floozy. Sous vide floozy. But I prefer this technique. I think it makes great flavor, especially for dry aged beef. It really highlights it. I prefer to not use a lot of seasoning because I think the meat stands up on its own. I like simple complexity. A great cut of meat is going to be a great cut of meat.
Yeah.
You use seasoning on am I allowed to swear on this show?
Yeah.
Sure.
You use seasoning on shit. Like the French are known for great sauces because their food used to rot. So they make great sauces. So they're because the food tasted disgusting. So you make a great sauce, so it masks it. If you use a great product, you don't have to use crazy seasoning. The meat itself will speak on its own. The cooking technique, I use tempered cooking. It's very short cook times and a long rest period. Very short cook times and a long rest period. And that for me has been the best success. And one of my favorite steakhouses in the world is in Las Vegas. That's a Spanish chef, Jose Andres, called Bizarre Meat. He has one of the most advanced tempered cooking systems. He actually gets it up to like 1,300 degrees.
Oh, wow.
Highest I can do at home is about 1,000. But it's very short cook times, and they're monitoring the temperature. It takes an hour and 20 minutes to cook a 24-ounce ribeye because of the tempered cooking. But I do utilize the oven.
Yeah.
The most important thing with my cooking technique, as I said, is what I'm most passionate about is that side of it. I love the dry aging, but I'm passionate about being able to cook it right. heat, as hot as you can freaking get it. People are like, what temperature is perfect? But it's hot as you can get it. I mean, I was ready to set the fire alarms off in the back because there's smoke all over the place.
I noticed the window was open.
Yeah. So heat, hot. It's never too hot as long as you're monitoring it, tempered cooking, not leaving it on the heat for too long. Let the heat absorb through the meat, and it should be pretty evenly cooked.
So I will say that, you were cooking in a challenged environment because those ceramic cooktops are not going to get you to level of heat that you want. Because with the ceramic, usually you can't get the heat as high.
So that's why I utilize cast iron.
Yeah.
And this is another one that drives some people nuts. I use cast iron on top of ceramic and glass cooktops. Like, doesn't it scratch it? And I'm like, didn't you buy the thing to cook on?
Yeah.
Like, scratches are like a badge of honor, right? And so my parents' place up home, I cook there quite a bit. And my mom's like, yeah, it does scratch the top. And I was like, yeah, but it's good, right? And she goes, yeah, that's fine. She gets it, and they're fine with it. And we have the replacement top when you get ready to sell the house or sell the oven,
I can buy you a new one.
Yeah, we're good.
we just redid our kitchen, and I put in a Wolf cooktop, and that cranks for the cast iron. You can't beat it.
We need to move this. We need to move this podcast at Solomon's house.
On location.
That's right.
One thing I really want, I want one of those in-home grills. The ones that are the built-in, it's a built-in grill on the island. That's literally a dream to me. However, I'm going to have to be really wealthy because you need the exhaust system to handle it. So the cast iron causes significant problems anywhere I've ever cooked because I get it really smoky.
Well,
I think I evacuated an entire apartment building in New York City one time.
Yeah, the first thing I do is take down the smoke alarms because they're going off.
All right, let's cut into
Let's
these.
get into these babies. All right, so
I'm itching here.
50-day dry-aged prime. They didn't have 70-day available, so we went with 50. I did bone-in, and one thing that I do when I cook bone-in is I'll cook some of the sides here, and you can rest the bone in the heat, and it can take quite a bit of heat because the bone's the best part.
Yeah.
So you can really get a lot of heat through there. So we're going to cut this one open first. Here we go. Look at that.
Oh, good Lord.
Jonathan. Yeah, it's perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yes.
Where's Mr. Sous Vide?
Well, I still tell stories about our prime rib dinners back in the day.
Can we zoom into this?
I have no real zoom.
All right, so
I'll get up there. You know.
Oh, there we go.
I'm going to call people out on this one. Sous viders, I dare you to cook it that even. Dare you in a sous vide with your reverse sear where it's that even from top to bottom. There's not even gray around the edges.
No.
You kidding me?
Oh, my God.
I'm not trying to be cocky. It just is what it is.
No, that is perfect.
Are you calling out the sous vide sissies?
I am. Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
Seriously, look at that.
Oh,
it's just ridiculous.
Johnny, you have a look of pure joy on your face.
Oh, I do. Oh, my God. Ed, this is heaven. Because not only, because here's the best part. I'll sit there and drool on Facebook and in his Instagram pages.
Yeah.
On how we refer to as true food porn.
I followed that closely.
This is live and in living color.
See, the key here is, too, a lot of the times, even with sous vide, anything, the bone blocks a lot of the heat. So if you don't give it that, give it the heat to the bone, you're going to have a little, it's going to be rare here.
Yeah.
So we're like legit medium rare. I mean, look at the bone.
Oh, nice.
It's the same color as the steak.
Yeah.
That's what tempered cooking does, is that piece right there is just delicious. So we're going to eat this thing. All right. You ready for this?
Oh, I've been waiting since September. That's about 9 months. The baby's ready, I think.
Well,
now I also prefer pink Himalayan sea salt. It's got a great flavor to it. I use English gray salt off and on for different items. Lamb chops are great for the gray salts. It's a wet salt. It's real wet. It's got a really good flavor to it. We need some napkins. But with steak, I prefer the pink Himalayan sea salt. It's fantastic. Hit it with a bunch of salt. I'm a big salt guy. The fun part about this is I know this is the Pit Life BBQ, so we're talking cast iron. I do this stuff on barbecue at my house. When I'm back in Maine, I do this all on barbecue. I do charcoal. I fire it up real hot. I get it up to about 800 to 900 degrees minimum. If you use a lot of lighter fluid, it gets it going. Now, people might say, oh, why would you use lighter fluid? Like, it's going to put the taste of the lighter fluid on it. You don't cook when you just put the lighter fluid on. You let the lighter fluid burn out, and the charcoals are really hot. So I use about 100 pounds of charcoal, bottle of lighter fluid, let it burn for about an hour, and then it's good to go.
Oh.
Jonathan, did you see this? Did you see this?
Come up here.
Look at this sous vide.
Come
ass.
here.
Yeah, sous vide. All right, let's eat this. All right, so here are the first bites. 50-day dry age prime ribeye. Let's just use our fingers. It's primal.
All right, it does look.
Oh my!
It does look good. That's pretty good.
Jimmy, did you get a glass? All right. Now, where the wine comes into play, we took that bite there. Now we're going to do another one. And once we've kind of like 30% chewed it, we're going to take a drink of wine. And we're going to chew with the wine in our mouth. So we're going to swallow the wine.
Hold on, I already ate. I'm going to have to.
Yeah, we're doing the second one.
I got to
We're doing the
back to the 30%.
So once you're about 20%, 30% chewed, you're going to take a sip of the wine. Cheers.
Cheers.
Who's the steak in your mouth?
This is riveting radio.
And you're going to chew with the wine in your mouth for a bit. And you're going to swallow it. And you're going to take a breath when it's in your mouth. It's going to open up all the flavors. It's just absolutely insane.
Oh, my God.
That right there is one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life.
Oh, my God.
Does that stuff taste good?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Thank you for taking
That wine the wine thing's huge. I can't remember where that was told to me, and if they're listening, and they were the ones that told me about it. A lot of people use wine as a palate cleanser, and it is a good palate cleanser. But really, what it's good for, it enhances the food and the flavor. Like when you chewed a little bit, then you chewed it with the wine when it was in your mouth, and took a swallow of it. It really just opens your whole palate.
Oh, it did. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, you have a gift. I still like my sous vide, but this is good.
Well, people,
You just cut off the best part.
well, there was a little too much there. Save it for me.
Fat equals flavor.
I have to do this whole wine thing again.
And really chew it. Get in and chew it a few times, 3 or 4 times.
Wow. Oh, my God. The flavor is unbelievable.
So that's what it's about. That's how you do a steak without having to sous vide. Now, don't get me wrong. It's funny. My favorite steakhouse in the U.S. is a place called Doris Metropolitan. It's in New Orleans, Houston, Texas, and they have one in Costa Rica as well. I got called out on another podcast, cigar podcast. Coincidentally, this is my first cooking podcast.
Was it on Coops?
No, we were on Cigar Dojo.
Okay.
And it turned
With
in.
Sensei?
Yeah, we talked nothing about cigars. We did nothing. We got 45 minutes in and like, this is a cigar podcast. We've done nothing about cigars. And I had to admit to them my favorite steakhouse in U.S. sous vides. The reason I like sous vide isn't for my at-home cooking. I think it's cheating. However, a lot of steakhouses you go to, they're busy, in a rush, got a lot of steaks going on. People lose track of time, temperature. Things come out inconsistent. This is cooked consistent through. If you're at a steakhouse that's doing sous vide, if you order medium rare, it's medium rare. If you order medium, it's medium. So that's why I prefer sous vide in a steakhouse setting. Everywhere else is cheating and lazy.
Nice. Actually, we get another question from James from the UK, from Liverpool.
Liverpool,
asks,
nice.
How much does a 50-day dry age? What would be like a price on that at I'm
a grocer or a meat purveyor?
Yeah.
These steaks cost $52 each. So 17-ounce dry age prime, 50-day bone-in New York strip. These were both $50 each. In a restaurant, a restaurant's buying it wholesale. So if you're buying at retail, there's still a little markup on it. Me personally, and this is probably an advertisement for Pat LaFrieda, and honestly, they ought to advertise in the show. I'll come on here more often. But they have a little bit of a markup. It's still very reasonable. This steak in a restaurant would be about $90 a steak for that size. So you're looking at about $90 minimum. because they're buying it at a wholesale price. 30 days, I would say a 30-day, a really good dry age 30-day strip in a restaurant would probably be around like 65 at the most. You could probably buy it for about 35 to 40. We did an 1.5 inch thick on this, which is about 17 to 18 ounces. So these were both 52 each.
Yeah, nice. And my friend Johnny Stewart, Chef Johnny, he was on a couple weeks ago. Oh, you're having wine pairings with your barbecue. Guess you're trying to be like your hero, Johnnie Mags. Yes, Chef, I am. I knew about the dry aged steaks. I didn't know about the wine. The wine was a nice little surprise.
So Chef will know. Wine is acceptable anywhere. I used to drink a lot of other stuff too, and I enjoy it. And the steak's great. It's awesome. By the way, we're eating the whole thing.
This is incredible.
I mean, we'll share a little bit more. But Chef will tell you, whatever you're doing and enjoying can be enjoyed anywhere. Like this type of cooking technique, tempered cooking can be done on a really hot grill outside. And I said 99% of the steaks I cook when I'm up in Maine and the food I cook is all tempered cooking on a hot grill. I'll spend 2 hours cooking a big tomahawk ribeye just to make sure it's perfect. But I've been fond of wine just because of the technique I showed you. You can't do that with beer.
Yeah, and what wine are we taking here? Because this is absolutely delicious.
So the wine we're drinking is Stag's Leap Artemis. This is my favorite wine. It's from Napa Valley. It's from the Stag's Leap district. Full-bodied, nice dry wine, real good fruit flavors, but dry fruit flavors. Yeah. For me, with steak, there's nothing better than this. Dry Napa cabs and dry Italian wines for me are perfect with steak, especially the way that I cook it.
Yeah.
So we don't have a lot of burnt flavors. Everything here is real fresh. As I said, if we'd had pepper on here, that would be burned a little bit. A lot of people want to put pepper on steak. It's fine. Everyone's can do what they want to do. I prefer not to because it burns, and I don't like that burnt flavor. If I want a burnt charred flavor, then I'll do brisket or something like that, or I'll take barbecue chicken and barbecue sauce on it and burn the snot out of it if I want that flavor. And I'm doing steak, especially dry aged. The meat needs to be treated well, and what you're drinking it with needs to be cleaned the same way. And the reason I like Italian wines with dry aged meat, and mostly any of the steaks I cook, because I don't just cook dry aged stuff. I'll do non-dry aged if I'm in a bind, which is fine, or if I just want it, if I have a hankering for it. Reason I like Italian wines is this technique that I cook with a steak. Man, it's good.
Wow. What do you think, Ed?
Fantastic.
So this is more of an Italian style way of cooking it. A simple Italian style of cooking steak is very little oil and salt. There's no pepper, there's no garlic, there's no rosemary. Maybe you have it in some of the oil to give the oil some flavor. Yeah. But it's a really simple style of cooking. And if it's a great cut of meat, simple's awesome. Simple's great.
Oh, that is fantastic, Jonathan.
Jimmy, a little wine time.
It's a party here. Dare I say it's a Catalina wine mixer?
This is the Catalina wine mixer. Cheers. We got friends in the house, family. This is awesome.
It's a party.
It's a party. We go live in front of a live studio audience.
So let's
folks.
cut this other one up. We got another one here.
Oh,
let's see how perfect this is. Yeah.
If we have to. Oh, it goes right through. Like, that is fantastic. Cabs and smoky beef work great, Chef Johnny. Absolutely. Pairing
Do you agree with us?
Texas wines with RQ. Texas wines. Chef, we're going to have to talk about that. Yeah. Yeah, this is a cab.
See, again, like here, perfect.
Oh, that's incredible.
I think I might just throw this at Jonathan when he comes up, hit him in the face.
No.
No. You can't waste that.
You want to see me move fast? Okay, I'll get over there just in time to catch it.
Steve, come try some of this, man. Have I cooked steak? Have I cooked steak for you before? Yes. All right. Steve's my sales rep for northeastern United States. He's actually been to my outdoor kitchen. All right, here we go.
All right, Johnny, you should probably think about wrapping up so we can eat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Why not?
Why not?
I mean, I think you've made everyone jealous
Yes.
enough out there. Messy Mike can watch the
Mike
rerun.
can watch,
of this.
absolutely. Jonathan, I'd love to thank you for making time. Finally, we got our schedules together and coming in, joining us, and doing all this, grilling these types. Where can everybody find you on social media so they can check out some of these pictures?
All right, so my steak and wine and cigars is the letters LFD, Larry Frank David, Carney. So LFD Carney. It's lots of steak, sometimes pictures of delays in airports, and a lot of cigars. But it's just kind of, it is what I do, and it's my Instagram is my daily life. It's not like I just post pictures up because it's cool or it's part of what I'm doing. I mean, it's stuff that I'm experiencing, and it's really fun to run into people. And it's been great to us to make that connection of things I'm passionate about. And if anyone's ever got any questions or advice on how to cook something, I can give you my best advice. I may not be the best, but I think after this you can see that it's good.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Next time we're going to do tomahawk ribeyes. We'll do tomahawk ribeyes next time, and we're going to barbecue them.
Next time. Oh, I love that. A part 2. Very exciting. Well, Jonathan, again, thank you so much for taking some time. I know you're a very busy man. I appreciate it. And, well, that's it for this week, folks. We'd like to thank you for joining us. You can catch the video on Facebook and YouTube. Catch the audio on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and other podcast catches. On social media, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Pit Life BBQ. We'd love to hear from you. Please send your questions and comments to pitlifebbqpodcast@gmail.com. You know, as always, please subscribe, like, rate, and review. Hit that share button. Spread the word. We love you guys. Thank you. Want to thank you all for your support.
Sous viders not allowed in the pit.
Oh, the gauntlet has been thrown down. Well, thanks, folks, for tuning in. Until next week, keep the smoke rolling.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.